The general laws are we only eat certain animals. Those animals need to be slaughtered in specific ways. We separate between meat and milk. We have special dishes which are dedicated to dairy, dedicated to meat, and all of our dishes have to be specifically kosher dishes. And different students, again, will vary in terms of how strict they adhere to some of these laws or what they view as being essential or perhaps ancillary. Because the laws are so complicated, as much as one might love to cook food for someone who's not kosher wants to cook food for someone who is kosher, I think often they run into challenges when they attempt to do so. And I know one of my favorite stories that I know was a friend of our family's interned for one of the justices for the Supreme Court for Thurgood Marshall. And one afternoon, Thurgood Marshall came in and said, I'm inviting all the clerks to my home for dinner, and you yourself are invited, so I'd love if you would come. And this friend of the family responded, I'd love to come, but, I keep kosher, so I would require you to make something vegetarian for me. And Thurgood Marshall turned to him and said, you don't keep kosher. And this clerk then said, what do you mean? He said, if you kept kosher, you wouldn't eat off of my dishes. So I think the story illuminates us in the sense of there are different standards of what it means to keep kosher. And here, a non-Jewish justice on the Supreme Court had his sense of what it meant to keep kosher because of his background growing up being around Jews and observant Jews. And here you had someone who kept kosher or self-proclaimed, identified as being someone who kept kosher but had somewhat different standards. And there can be that challenge of you want to host someone in your home and you want to be accommodating, but sometimes it's hard to actually be accommodating. So what I usually recommend is if someone wants to host someone who keeps kosher, to ask them what their own dietary needs are. And usually it means ordering food from a kosher vendor. We have kosher dining services here at Harvard Hillel, but also there are various kosher restaurants in the neighborhood, or most of them are in Brookline, and where one can order kosher food and have someone come and eat in their home. It's a little tricky, though, because usually you want that food to come still wrapped in its certification or labels that certify it as still being kosher. Because even if you've gone through all this effort to order kosher food and you've gone to Brookline to pick it up or had it delivered, if you open it up and the seal is broken, it can make the person who is keeping kosher, make them feel uncomfortable because they're uncertain of the origin of this food, even if they want to trust you. And also, if you use your own utensils to warm it up or just to deal with it in some way, that actually can render the food unkosher. So always best to try and ask as many questions as possible, to be curious. I mean, one of the best parts of being on a campus is that we have the opportunity to share our culture with other people, and others have the opportunity to learn about Jewish culture, and that is a reciprocal relationship also. We get to learn from others. And so I think I just would encourage people to feel invited to ask Jews who are observant, what exactly are your restrictions, what are your needs, and also to reach out to me here on campus if there are questions for events of how we could accommodate observant Jews.